It's Angie from Eat, Learn, Love, and today I'm going to show you an easy way to make a roux, which is the starting point for a homemade gravy or homemade sauce, whether it's cheese sauce or white sauce. And it's really simple, and it's a great money saver because then you don't have to buy the pre-made stuff from the store. But sometimes when I talk about it, people have no idea what a roux is, and that's spelled R-O-U-X. And so I'm just going to show you a simple way to do it and the way I learned from my mom. And then you can just make gravy whenever you need to, or like for tonight I'm making a cheesy ham and potato casserole, and I need to make a white sauce that I can add cheese to make the casserole with. So here we go. First step is you need 6 tablespoons of butter. I use unsalted butter, and then I add my own salt in as I go, just so I don't end up with it being too salty. So 6 tablespoons in the pan. Turn your stove on to medium. I have it on my front burner, and those are a bigger burner, and they get pretty hot pretty quick. So I do medium. Sometimes I'll do medium high, but usually medium is good enough. Let me grab a whisk here. All right, then that's gonna melt down. And as that's melting down, you can measure out 6 tablespoons of flour. The flour is gonna be added to the melted butter to create a thickening, almost like a paste. And then when we add the liquid, that'll create the thickened sauce. Let me grab a bowl and we'll measure out our tablespoons of flour. Alright, so whether you use salted or unsalted butter, it doesn't matter. But just keep in mind which one you are using when you go to add your salt and pepper later. You don't want it to be over salty. It's really hard to correct for your end product. Also, if you're going to be making a chicken gravy, just be aware of whether or not your gravy is salted already. If you're using store-bought, it's typically salty unless you have the low sodium kind. If it's homemade gravy, just be aware of how much you have salted it when you made it. I don't put too much salt in my homemade gravy, so it's easier for me to just salt as I go when I make things with it. So that's still melting. I'm gonna measure out my flour. I keep my flour in a giant container here so that I can just measure it out. Hello, Eddie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I should mention that with 6 tablespoons of butter, I'm going to use 6 tablespoons of flour. This will be for 3 cups of gravy or sauce. If you need only 2 cups, we do 3 cups because we feed a lot of people. But if you only need 2 cups of a sauce, you would go down to 4 tablespoons of butter and then 4 tablespoons of flour. It's a 1-to-1 ratio as far as the butter and flour. So this is just about melted. You don't want it to burn, so just pay attention. I'm turning my heat down just a little bit. Pay attention to the butter. If it burns, I mean, you can make a brown butter sauce, but that's not what we're going for here today. All right, put your flour right in and you stir it up. I'm gonna tip the pan so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So I've poured it in, I've stirred it up, and it's starting to get pasty. And I'll stir it up a little better over the heat here. And then make sure it's completely incorporated so you don't have any chunks of butter. That does not taste good. So here I have it mixed up. It's still a little bit runny, but it's definitely not as runny as it was just with the melted butter. Okay, once that's done, you can let that cook for about a minute. I'm gonna grab some salt and pepper at this point. I'm also gonna grab some garlic powder and onion powder. Since I'm making a white sauce, I'm gonna season mine a little bit. I'm gonna put a little bit of onion powder. I don't measure, I just put in whatever looks great. Onion powder, a little garlic powder, a little black pepper. I need to refill this, it looks like. And then I'm just gonna do a little bit of salt now, and then I will taste it later after I finish up. Since I'm making a white sauce, I'm gonna use milk today. So I won't have an issue with saltiness from any gravy or from any chicken broth. Okay, so that's cooked for about a minute. So now the key to incorporating the thickener with your liquid is to do a little bit at a time. If you're using broth, you could warm up your broth on the stove and then add it a little bit at a time to your butter flour mixture. With milk, I don't tend to warm that up. But I've mixed in a little bit, so now it's pretty thick and pasty here. You add a little bit more, because what you want to do is add enough that it can thicken what you've added, but not too much that it makes it too soupy. I find that it's really hard for the thickener to catch up with all 3 cups of liquid poured in. So I do a little bit at a time and it thickens as it goes. All right, here's the second. I put it in, it's pretty thick. So now I have about 2 cups left. I'm gonna do about a cup. Let's see, that's about a cup. Stir that in. And I have it on medium low or low medium right now. I don't want it to boil. If you start to let it boil with the milk, it can get all curdly. So you don't want it to boil. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. He is upset because we had to put him in a room because he got into some candy. All right, so that's pretty thick. I'm gonna add my last cup. And can I just say my favorite measuring cup is the OXO slanted one, because the measurements are on the inside and you can set the cup flat and be able to read it perfectly from the top. So if you're in the market for a new measuring cup, I would get the OXO slanted. I'm sure there's other companies that have that same type of setup, but that's the one I've had, since we got married 14 years ago. So that's the one I use and love. And I'm surprised none of the measurements have rubbed off. Okay, so I just make sure all the thickener is incorporated. Good baby, and once there are no chunks, I can let it continue to heat until it's as thick as I want. Once you remove it from the heat, it will thicken up some more on its own. If you make it way ahead of time and you go back to use it and it's really, really thick and like not gelatinous, but pretty thick, you can always add a little bit more liquid, whether it's chicken broth or the milk, just like you would if you were reheating some kind of cream soup that you had stored in the fridge. So here we have, it's runny but not too runny, and it's thick but not too thick. All right, I'm going to turn the heat off on that, and I'm gonna take a spoon and just taste it just to see how salty it is, to know whether or not I need to add more. I am going to add some cheese to this, so that will increase the saltiness. That's pretty good. I'm gonna not add any more salt now. I'm gonna add a little bit of cheese, but before I do that, I'm gonna get rid of my whisk so the cheese doesn't stick to it. And I'm going to get out my spoon. Can I watch you? Okay, I'm just dropping spoons everywhere. Have a spoon. I'm gonna just take a little bit of this cheese. We have a lot here. I'm just gonna take a handful or so and put it in because I need to add the rest to the top of the casserole, or most of the rest. Yes, you can have a piece of cheese. All right, so we're gonna stir this in just to make sure that it's all melted in there. It's warm enough I don't need to turn the burner back on. This will melt down. And that will yield 3 cups, or about 3 cups of white sauce. So again, you can do 4 tablespoons of butter and 4 tablespoons of flour with 2 cups of liquid if you only need an ending of 2 cups of a gravy or a sauce. But when we do the 9x13 pans of whatever casserole, I always make 3 cups, whether it's scalloped potatoes or this ham and potato casserole, or my chicken broccoli rice casserole. I make a white sauce for that. I always do 3 cups because it seems to absorb the liquid pretty good. So if I want to keep it creamy and a little bit juicy, then 3 cups is the way to go. And then I'm going to use this tonight, like I said, for my cheesy ham and potato casserole. And I didn't have to buy any cream of whatever sauce, whether it's cream of chicken or cream of mushroom. I didn't need to buy any gravy. And this is pretty cheap because, again, it's 3 cups of milk, 6 tablespoons of flour, and 6 tablespoons of butter. So that's a pretty good savings on money there. I haven't done the calculations, but I'm just picturing that it's a lot. So there you have. That's how to make a roux for a large family. Thanks for watching.